Welcome to this edition of Smart Levers, and I have Sirisha with me. Hi, Sirisha.
Hi, Harish.
And today we're going to talk about something which is in tune with the season of the times, the election, and all that. We're talking about some manifesto. This is the Culture Manifesto. What is Culture Manifesto all about?
Yeah, just like how political parties have their manifesto, which is their promise about what are the ideologies they stand for and what are the things that they promising the citizens. Just like that, Culture Manifesto is a document for the organization which talks about the big, large purpose, right? What is that true north that they want to collectively achieve the big problem they're trying to solve? And it also talks about the values that are very important for the company, and it talks about its promise to its employees. Now when I say employees, it is also people who are working in the organization and who are prospective employees that the company can get, right? Now think of the role the political manifesto plays, right? It's basically parties have it to woo voters. Like that, Culture Manifesto is for attracting employees, and it's increasingly becoming important because now it's the age of the empowered employee, right? Where the employee is not just looking for the right title or the right role or how long can I spend in the organization, but they're looking for things beyond money and title, which will include the kind of people I'll be working with, the kind of workplace where I'm going to spend 14 hours in a day. So there it becomes important for the company now to put its best foot forward, explicitly telling people that this is how this workplace is going to be. This is our promise to people. And so why don't you come join us in this journey to get to closer to the purpose? So yeah, both of them are meant to serve a similar purpose, but a political party can get away with not living by its manifesto. A company cannot. The moment company doesn't live up to the promise in the manifesto, they'll have people leaving the organization.
Yeah, you mentioned that this is a document. So, what exactly goes into this document, and how can and how should companies be using this document?
Yeah, typically a culture manifesto has three components. One is the purpose, which is the true north of the organization, right? The larger problem that the organization is trying to solve in the society community. And then it has values. Now, values, there are two types of values, right? One is that which differentiates the company, and two are the values that are essential for the company to work, right? So the values that are essential for the company to work are called permission to play values, and the values that are going to stand out, differentiate the company from its competitors, are those that the company wants to live by, which is going to give them that competitive advantage. Those are the company's core values, so those get highlighted in the manifesto. And the third component is the company's promise to its employees. What kind of a workplace are you going to get? What kind of people are you going to work with? So these three go into the manifesto.
And how do they use this document?
Yeah, typically manifesto is an external facing document. So companies usually put them up on their website. It's for their all their stakeholders in the ecosystem, could be customers, partners, prospective employees, their current employees, all of them to see what the company stands for. It's a part of that whole brand for that company, right? It also says, oh, this is what we do and this is how we do it. The identity of that company, the character of the company emerges from this document. And an internal facing document that they create out of this manifesto, that gets created out of this manifesto, is called the handbook, the culture handbook, which actually says how do people live these values within the company.
What is the price that companies will pay if they don't have something like this in place?
So think of it this way, right? Every day there are hundreds of problems that the founders always have to solve. So everybody is caught up in that chaos, right? And when you're actually getting people on board, it's more about getting things done, getting work done, than actually looking at imbibing people into the culture of that company. So the price that companies pay when they don't have a document like this which unifies all of them is different pockets of cultures getting formed in the company, right? You hire people from different organizations. Each of them comes with their own style of working, their own culture that they have worked earlier. So you have all those pockets of different cultures that are there, which doesn't seem very cohesive. People get confused. People see everything not aligned, and that creates a lot of employee dissatisfaction. And that's where usually the employee NPS scores go drastically down when companies don't have this culture defined well.
So this brings me to the next question. When is the right time to create the culture manifesto, and is there a question of you having missed the bus? If you don't have one, you've been running an organization for some time, what happens then? Can you still go and make your culture manifesto?
Yeah, ideal time to create the culture manifesto is when you get the first employee, right? Because the culture of the company, the founders in all probability have that alignment, and the founders know what kind of company they want to build. But the moment you start hiring your first employee, it's very important to actually tell them in so many words about what that company is. That's the ideal time. The usual time when companies end up doing this is after they finish that phase of that product market fit, right? When they are getting funded, when they're looking at growth, when they're looking at getting more people on board. That's when they look at identifying or defining, codifying this culture. Because suddenly you have the first level of employees who are working directly with the founders have a lot of clarity in terms of the kind of culture, because they're closely interacting with the founders. The moment you start having the next level, which happens when you get into the growth phase, right, is when it's important to define all of this. So the other part of your question in terms of, is there something like you've missed the bus, you've not created it? It's never too late to create it. A lot of times we see organizations that come back saying, oh, you know what, all these things are going wrong because we haven't defined the culture. At that point, you do this entire exercise of codifying the culture, and then you identify the gaps of what is the desired culture that you want versus what you actually have. And for each of those areas, you create a plan for how are you going to transition from the current state to the desired state that you want. So that's a bit of extra effort, right? It requires some undoing and redoing, and avoid that is where we usually recommend companies to define, codify this culture from the time when they are actually looking at scaling and growing.
Right. Yeah. So, Sirisha, I think there are a few child smart lever episodes that I can see coming out of this. One is the core values. One is permission to play values. We will also talk about the process which we use for creating the culture manifesto, where we use what we call as the dilemmas resolution framework. So, there's one episode that is going to be reserved for that. And I think there's this analogy that people often use, right, where startups are like you're trying to build a plane while it is in flight. So when people are doing something like that, obviously the culture manifesto, if it has not been done, it has not been thought through right at the beginning, there is going to be some bit of hemorrhaging that is going to happen. You just have to accept that as a natural price that you pay, but try to fix it as soon as possible. Don't delay it, especially after you listen to this episode. Now that you know what the culture manifesto should have, if you don't have one, start thinking about it. On that note, thanks a lot, Sirisha, for this. And with the word manifesto usually has connotations of elections or communist manifesto. But I think based on what you've told me, a manifesto is something which every group, community, organization should have, whether it's a company, whether it's a political party. You want to attract people, you want people to join your cause, then you need that manifesto. And it becomes a great guiding set of guiding principles about how you want to live your life. Thanks a lot, Sirisha.
Yeah, thanks, Harish.